Hi friends, welcome to this episode of Yarnyheart Fiber Art. My name is Jess. You can find me on Instagram at yarnyheart, and this is the show where I talk about all the yarny things that I've been up to. On this episode of the podcast, I have 2 finished objects, I have 2 new cast-ons, and a work in progress update for you. So if that sounds like fun, grab your knitting, grab a cozy fall drink, and let's dive in. Yeah, I'm mentally in fall right now. The weather outside is nowhere near fall. I take that back. It was a little cooler this week, and it gave me kind of like that first kiss of fall, like a fool's fall, if you will. But it's starting to heat up again starting today, and it's going to be pretty hot next week. So I'm mentally in fall. Here in California, us cozy fall girlies have to start the season early because the season lasts such a short amount of time. So I'm mentally in fall, and I'm hoping to bring you along with me on my mental fall journey. So some of the finished objects that I'm gonna go over here are kind of like me saying goodbye to summer a little bit and trying to embrace some transitional weather. I do also have a big announcement. I am going to Korea in a couple of weeks, so I'm hoping to get another podcast update episode filmed before then, but I'm not 100% sure that I will get around to doing that. However, while I'm in Korea, I'm certainly going to be doing some yarn shopping. I'm also going to be bringing my camera with me and hopefully be able to have some vlog type content. But I am going with my mom and my grandmother, so, you know, obviously I don't want to be super disruptive to their trip, but at the very least, I'm going to cover the yarn shops that I'll be visiting and the yarn that I'm buying. So that's kind of what's going on with me if you happen to not hear from me in the next couple of weeks. But like I said, I'm going to try to get a podcast out before I head out on that trip. All the preamble out of the way, let's get into the actual knitting. So my first finished object to share with you is the one that I'm wearing. This is my Anjou tank by Skinny Dippin'. I've hopefully have learned my lesson about not, you know, standing up for the camera and trying to get everything all in there. This is my Anjou tank finished. It is so cute. It's really, really nice. Like, I'll talk about it when I kind of get into the knitting process of this more, but I certainly had some doubts before I got to all the finishing. The finishing really makes this piece stand out. Like, the finishings are so pretty. Yeah, so this is a mosaic knitting pattern with slip stitches, with some nice texture and purl ridges as part of the mosaic knitting. It has a really beautiful texture. That's kind of the thing that really drew me to this pattern in the first place. It was that plus the bold statement of like these I-cord finishings and that contrast color just really sold me on wanting to make this. I've been working on this for the past couple of weeks, past month. Yeah, super fun project. Although, and you can follow the saga of all the times that I made mistakes during this project. You can follow the saga in previous episodes if you want to hear the full story. But long story short, I did have a lot of issues knitting this pattern that had nothing to do with the pattern itself. It was just, this was a pretty tough one, I won't lie. Like, I consider myself a pretty advanced knitter at this point. I've done most techniques that are, I won't say most, I've done quite a lot of techniques. I have a lot of experience doing very different, various kinds of knitting, styles of knitting and techniques. Mosaic was new to me, but I don't even think that is like part of where I messed up. One thing with this pattern, there was a lot of breaking yarn and a lot of joining yarn, knit in lots of different pieces. There was no seaming. That is one thing. There was no seaming, but there was a lot of picking up stitches, putting stitches on hold, breaking the yarn, rejoining the yarn, this strap, that strap, back, you know, back part of this strap, back part of this strap. So there was a lot of that going on, which granted was a little self-inflicted because there's a bottom-up version and a top-down version. And it is universally agreed that the bottom-up version of this pattern was easier to execute. But I decided to knit the top-down version because I was feeling confident, and additionally, Like when I was squinting at the sample photos, like just very closely, I was like, I don't know, for some reason the top down version just looks nicer. But I genuinely have zero idea if there actually is a visual difference between the top down, bottom up version. Additionally, you know, I knit a lot of bottom up, and even right now I'm knitting a lot of bottom up, but I like knitting top down because I like having control over where the body will end, and being able to manage my yarn that way. I'm sure a lot of people feel this way also, but like that's for me, that's a preference. And honestly, I don't regret knitting the top down because I really needed to. I was actually 1 row short on the body on this. You know what? I do need to put that part. I have a shirt under this. I'm not stripping down or anything, but I will show you the bottom hem of this because you can see that there's like these grids. So like the pattern is made up of these boxes, and you'll see that the bottom row of boxes is just 1 green row short because I didn't even run out of the green. Because I actually have like not a full ball, maybe 3/4 or half, maybe like more like half. I have like half a ball left of the green here, but I was running out of the white to the point that if I did another green row, I would not have enough white to do another border row after that, so I just cut it off at the 2. I don't think it looks that bad. Like it's really not noticeable unless you're me and you know that it's there and it's not intended to look that way. But aside from that, it looks fine in my opinion. Back to what I was saying though, I did run into quite a lot of problems with this pattern. Just probably user error. I don't think the pattern was wrong in any way. But there were certain areas where I actually knitted 1 more row of strap, top part, strap, I guess. I knitted 1 more row of strap than the pattern specified on just one side of this. So it's not completely symmetrical. One side is lower than the other side. But I had to do that because originally when I knitted it the way that I knitted it, does that make any sense? The way that I did it in the first place, when I went to go join in the round, there was, it was not syncing up when I was joining it at the underarm. Like where I went to actually join it, I was getting 2 boxes in a row, so they weren't alternating. So my fix for that was knitting one side a little longer so that the pattern would have a chance to flip again and then it would connect seamlessly. So that's one modification that I had to make, fixing a mistake that I probably had made somewhere, that I still don't know what I did wrong. So that was one thing. I was confused about starting the strap. Like when I first started, you start with 1 strap, then you knit separately another strap, then you pick up stitches at the shoulder, then you knit back, and then you knit and you connect it in the round. That's how it goes. But I was very confused about the starting row on the straps. Like that part wasn't even the pattern, it was me not reading the chart correctly and also being like slightly sleep deprived when I started this. So that was also not the designer's fault. Basically, long story short, I struggled to knit this, but it was once again kind of self-inflicted. I do feel like if I knitted the bottom-up version, a lot of my problems that I had would not have been problems. This is not a mistake, but just kind of a note. I was really scared about this being huge before I did the finishings on it because this mosaic slip stitch pattern, this is super stretchy because it's essentially like, because you have these purl rows, it's almost like a garter stitch, or it almost acts like a garter stitch. It just has a lot of stretch to it. And so before I did the I-cord finishings, this was literally falling off of me. It was enormous and I was so disappointed because I had certainly not intended for it to fit that way. Even still, I do think that it turned out bigger than the pattern specifications. Not necessarily too big for me to wear. Like you can see, like I'm wearing it now and it's cute and loose and stuff. I feel like I could have gotten away with knitting a size smaller at the gauge that I had. And part of it too is this calls for DK or worsted weight. I can't remember if it was DK or worsted weight, but maybe it was DK. Either way, I was holding a fingering weight double to make it like the gauge, but I do think that it ended up heavier than the suggested yarn weight. So that's also partially on me. But all that to say, it was ridiculously large, concerningly large. You know, it ain't over till it's over. Truly, it ain't over till it's over. And so when I started doing the finishings and doing the applied I-cord edge, it just brought everything in, which is what I was hoping it would do. And that is exactly what it did. It just brought everything in. It created a really nice defined piped line, which is, once again, one of the design elements that drew me to this pattern in the first place. So it just brought everything together, held everything in place, gave it structure. It really just made this pattern. So this is, you know, yet another reminder, it ain't over till it's over. And I'm sure everyone's had a similar experience of like, it's not over until you do the finishings. It's not over until you wet block the piece. It's not over till it's over. Don't give up, trust the process. This was my lesson once again of like, trust the process. But I'm super happy with it. It's great. And I do think, because like I said, summer hasn't given up yet here in the Bay Area. I do think that I will certainly get wear out of this before the season truly ends. And even after that, I think it'll be really good as a layering piece, because it feels cool enough when I'm wearing it on its own, but it also feels warm enough when I'm wearing it over a shirt like this. So I think it'll be a good transitional weather piece for me, which is great because I certainly always need more of those. So yeah, it's really nice. Let me talk about the yarn real quick. I've mentioned it several times, but this is Knitting for Olive Cotton Merino. And the off-white color, I think it's wheat. I think I threw away the label because I completely ran out of the white yarn. But I think this one is wheat, and then I know that the green one is dark sea green. So yeah, that was that. I've talked about this before as well. This is my first time trying cotton merino, and I don't think I would knit with it again. Simply because I liked it in this project, but I don't know that I would like it as a full garment, or like full stockinette style garment. I don't know, it just has an interesting texture. It feels super cottony. Like you certainly feel the cotton more than you feel the merino, which, you know, like in itself is not a bad thing necessarily, but it just makes it feel very cottony, and I'm not sure how I would like a material like this in a sweater. But then on the other hand, like I'm not unwilling to give it another chance. I just probably think like not anytime soon, maybe. But maybe come summer, you know, maybe come next spring or something, maybe I'll give it another shot, I don't know. The other part of it is like I am itching to try some of the other Knitting for Olive yarns, and I feel like I would want to try those before I were to reach for cotton merino again, especially because I do have an acquisition to share later on. But I really want to try out the Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair with my acquisition that I have coming up. So that might be a next Knitting for Olive purchase for me, possibly, if I don't find something, because I'm also probably going to look for stuff in Korea as well, so we'll see where that goes. But yeah, very, very long chat on this, but this is my anjou tank. I'm just proud of it, you know. I do feel very accomplished having finished this. I feel like this might have been one of the most technically difficult, if not the most technically difficult thing that I've knitted in a while. And I know you've seen me do all kinds of crazy cable work and stuff like that, but a cable is a cable is a cable, in my opinion. Like once you get good at cables and you've like mastered cables, you can do any cable as long as you're like paying attention to the pattern well. But that's how I feel about cables. A cable is a cable is a cable. This was certainly a new venture for me, and I think with all of the shaping, like with all of the actual design elements and details, I do feel like this is probably the most technically difficult knit that I've executed. So I'm very proud of myself for this one, for sure. So my second finished object is real simple, and you've been seeing these a lot, but they are my vanilla socks. They are done. I've actually worn them already and washed them already, so you might see a stray hair here or there. If you are a wool sock enthusiast and also a no socks in the house kind of person, you have probably figured out that wool socks attract hair like nobody's business. So forgive me if you see the errant hair here and there on these, because I have been wearing them. They're just fun. So I've talked about these quite a bit too, but just a quick rundown. These are just vanilla top-down socks, completely improvised. I cast it on 64 stitches. This is just 64 stitches with a tubular cast on, and then I did a 1x1 twisted rib for the cuff, and then straight stockinette for the leg. I did a shadow wrap heel, and then straight stockinette for the foot, and then just a regular kind of like toe box decrease and Kitchener stitch grafted toe. So pretty typical top-down sock. Not much else to say about this except that I used a Zauber ball. Made Zauber ball crazy. I have actually so much left of this Zauber ball that I need to go grab it real quick and show you how much I have left. Okay, so the thing is, like, these are pretty tall socks. Like, I would say these are pretty big socks. I still have this much left. This feels like half the ball. And it's crazy because, you know, it's 100 grams. It's a pretty standard sock ball. There's so much of this left. So I've already talked in other episodes about my plans for it, I think, but I want to use it as the contrast color for some colorwork socks, like all over colorwork. I'm looking at some of the stone knits patterns. But I just had to show you how much is left. Like, I swear to God, this is like half the ball that I have left over. You know, now that I'm thinking about it, it does kind of make sense. Let me put this away. Now that I'm thinking about it, it does kind of make sense because these are plain vanilla socks as opposed to socks that have some kind of motif or lace work or cables or something, because anytime you add a motif to a pattern, aside from it being straight stockinette, like that will definitely add yardage, right? So probably the fact that these are just vanilla probably consumed way less yarn than doing something else. So, I mean, I guess that makes sense. But yeah, these are how they are. They're nice. I will say of the shadow wrap heel, I liked knitting it, but I'm not sure that I like wearing it, which is unfortunate because I really liked the process of knitting them. It's such an easy heel to execute, especially for top-down socks, because while I don't necessarily mind doing a heel flap and gusset, it's also not the most convenient thing in the world. This shadow wrap heel is so convenient. There's no picking up stitches. There's no increasing or decreasing. Literally, you're just working short rows and you make a heel. That being said, it does have a tendency to kind of like pinch at the very edge here. So like, orientate this the other way. So you see if I pull the sock bottom flat like this, you'll see where there are stitches for the top or the back of the heel. It's kind of trapezoidal. So what will happen is when I'm wearing it often, it will kind of pinch in like that, and I'll end up with a little nubbin at the back of my heel, which is not ideal. But I mostly wear these around the house, or like if anything, I wear like socks with my Crocs to go to the grocery store or something like that. But I mean, I intended these to just be mostly house socks or errand socks, you know, so I'm not too torn up about it, and I'm glad that I tried the shadow wrap heel, because certainly I would have rather had this happen on a pair of socks like this than a pair of socks that I like spent a lot of money and a lot of time and effort and stuff like that. Like, I certainly would not have wanted to find that out on a pair of socks like that, so I'm glad that I found that out on a pair of socks like these. It could also possibly that I knitted the foot a little too small. The first one of these, I knitted the entire foot on a road trip, and so I had very limited ability to try it on, but then I also didn't want to stop knitting. So I kind of guesstimated a little bit and then started decreasing, but I feel like I might have started decreasing a little too early, which is a me problem, certainly. But I do also think that with the shadow wrap heel, like, because this is like me kind of like making it straight, it's a very defined corner, and feet don't really look like this. So it could be either or. But yeah, like I said, kind of a shame because I really enjoyed the process of knitting that shadow wrap heel. But I'm happy with them all the same. They're just a fun Zauber ball, self-striping, improvised vanilla sock kind of knit. So they're done. Before I get into new cast-ons, I'm going to share first progress on my one whip that I'm carrying over from previous episodes, which is my Seek jumper by the Petite Knitter. And this is for my boyfriend. This has also been kind of a song on the podcast, just because it is a fingering weight sweater that is essentially just stockinette at this point, so it's taking me a while, but I'm making really good progress on it. I also can show you the whole thing stretched out because I recently purchased some of these little barber cords that everybody has to be able to try it on. I am seeing my boyfriend tomorrow, so I'm going to have him try it on before I put this back on my needles to keep working on it. But I think it'll fit him well because I tried it on and his chest circumference is smaller than mine. So if I was able to try it on, and I didn't necessarily have a whole lot of positive ease, but it certainly fit me. So I think it'll have more positive ease on him, which will probably be a better fit. And of course, this is superwash yarn and it's color work. So once I've steam blocked this before, but once I wet block it, I think that will certainly help things open up more as well. This is kind of where it's going. So I'm quite a ways down the body at this point. I have this much done. And honestly, if this was a sweater for me, I'd probably stop not too far past there because I like my sweaters to be a little cropped, but he does not. So I'm going to keep knitting. But genuinely, if this was a sweater for me, I'd probably stop soon on the body. So it's going great. And this collar continues to be a little bit of a concern. When I tried it on, it did want to stand up like this. But then also the shoulders were kind of pulling up to like here. So when I pulled the shoulders down to like where they should be, this collar did open up like this, like it was intended to. So I'm hopeful that with the wet blocking, it will have a better tendency to fall the way it's supposed to. Yeah, but it's so cute. So last time I showed off the squirrels and the finished squirrels and stuff, so there's not a whole lot more to say about this than I had to say last time, but it's certainly a progress update. I think what's helpful too is having the barber cord here so that you can see the whole yoke stretched out. It's really gorgeous. It's such a gorgeous pattern and it's making me so excited to knit my own after this. Because I'd mentioned before, but I have plans to knit the Sasky jumper after this, which is the pattern that has bunnies on it. And so knitting this one is just making me even more excited to knit that one. So yeah, it's going well. Just to mention the yarn again, the gray base color is by Playful Day Yarns. It is on their yak fingering base, which is 80% wool, 10% yak, 10% nylon. Or I should say 80% superwash wool, which is also why I'm confident that this is going to grow a little bit after I block it. And it's super soft, beautiful gray color. This gray colorway is called Moon Rocks, and I believe this was an exclusive colorway for the Bay Area Yarn Crawl, which is when I purchased it. And then the white color is just Malabrigo sock in their natural base. Yeah. I've been talking about this sweater quite a lot and the various stages of it, so if you're interested in hearing more about this, I know that I'm kind of breezing through it, but genuinely, like, I promise you the only update is like this stockinette section at the bottom that I've been working on. So if you are interested in hearing more or seeing the various stages of progress of this sweater, I do encourage you to check out previous episodes of my podcast where I talk about it in the more beginning stages. And because I do feel like progress updates on this from here on out are pretty much just going to be progress updates on when I finish various parts of the stockinette, because I'm probably going to knit this stockinette, knitting it like a third more down there and then starting the ribbing. And then after I finish the body, it'll pretty much just be picking back up the stitches that are on hold on the sleeves and then knitting the sleeves in all stockinette with a couple decreases. So I do feel like, you know, progress updates on this are going to stagnate a little bit just because there's not going to be a whole lot more excitement going on, but that doesn't mean that I'm not working on it. I'm certainly going to be working on this, especially now that it's getting cooler. Like, I worked on this a lot this week while it was cold because as you'll see, I do have a new cast on, but the new cast on is a little more inclined towards the warmer weather that we are still seeing. But for me, it's kind of like, it's also a transitional knitting piece where I'm like, yeah, it's not as hot to, I mean, it's not as warm to work on during this time, but it's the kind of piece that still gets me in the fall mood, if that makes any sense. You'll see what I'm talking about coming up here, but hopefully that made like some kind of sense. I don't know. My next whip is a sock whip. Let me just get it out of here first. This pattern is by Yucca. I have knitted Yucca socks before. That was the Very Berry Garden from several episodes ago. But this is another Yucca pattern called Signal and Signalless, which is the name of a Japanese short story that was published in 1923. I've not read the short story, but I do enjoy reading the backgrounds of like where pattern names come from. I was also that kid that like on the field trip that would always like stop and read every plaque at the museum, and then I'd look up and then like the rest of my group and my teacher had like gone on without me because I was the only weirdo that was reading all the plaques. So that's how I feel about like recipes, blog posts, like knitting patterns. So anyway, all that to say, this pattern is called Signal and Signalless, named after a Japanese short story published in 1923. And I am knitting this with 3 colors. So you may remember earlier I did get, my boyfriend did buy for me a sock set from Wyoming when he went to Wyoming to visit Heart Mountain, the internment camp for Japanese Americans during World War II. But while he was there in the town outside of Heart Mountain, there was a yarn store there, so he went in, he bought me a souvenir skein, or set of skeins, but it was a hand-dyed sock set that was dyed by the owner of the shop, so that was super exciting. And actually, now that I think about it, you guys haven't seen this all wound up. It's genuinely stunning. It's a stunning yarn. So here is that skein that I showed earlier, but in a cake. It's so pretty. This is the rare instance where I feel like a cake does a yarn more justice than the skein. Like, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Everyone's had those yarns that just looked absolutely gorgeous in the skein, and then you go to wind it up in the cake and you're like, I kind of like it less now. And then you go to knit it up and you're like, I like it even less now. This is the opposite of that. The skein was beautiful. This cake is stunning. And the sock that I'm knitting with it is even more beautiful. So this was the full-size skein that it came with, and then it came with these 2 mini skeins in contrasting colors, but both of these colors can be found also within the cake because there's just so many colors going on here. It's always so interesting to me how dyers like curate these kinds of colorways, because it's like, yeah, there's so much going on here, there are so many colors, but it still tells such a cohesive color story, you know? Like for me, even though Wyoming is not in the Southwest, like it feels very Southwest to me. Like for me, looking at this skein, what it brings to mind is like a sunset in the American Southwest. I did used to live down in the Mojave area when I was growing up, and it's just like, this is just what the sunset looks like. And it's like the fading sunset, the very last of it, when most of the sky is kind of like this darker blue with just a kind of like hint of light at the horizon, and then right at the horizon line there's like this myriad of like yellow, green, orange, but it's just like a thin line. That's what this skein reminds me of. It's so pretty. I'm really obsessed with it. So it's like, you all know, I have so much sock yarn now that I have just accumulated over different things, like the yarn swap at the start of this year, the yarn crawl also at the start of this year. I've just been picking up so much sock yarn, and I have not even like, I haven't even made a dent in the sock yarn that I already have. And this was a very recent acquisition for me. But that is how excited I was to work with this yarn after I received it. I could not get this sock set out of my head, because typically a sock set will have, you know, your main color and then like one contrast color, which is very easy to find patterns for, either having like a colorwork cuff or just like, or colorwork leg, you know what I'm talking about. Or just using that color, that second color for like the heel flap and the toe cap and stuff like that. That's an easy one to deal with. Having 3 colors to play with consumed my thoughts like nothing else. I was looking high and low for a 3-color colorwork pattern sock that would adequately use up those side skeins, and I came across this one by Yucca. So it's really, really pretty. I'm going to finally hold this up now and show you all the details. So you can see where I have those blues and the oranges in here. But this sock pattern is really easy. It's a combination of mosaic, no, not mosaic. It's a combination of stranded colorwork knitting and knits and purls. And so when you are knitting the colors, you're just purling. And then you have knit rows in between. And then these colorwork rows are a combination of knits and purls to make this kind of texture. One thing with this sock pattern also is the colorwork portion is just in the leg, because I'm not confident that I would have even had enough of the contrast colors to do two entire socks. So that made this super perfect for that. So basically the colorwork part is only in the leg, and I only have probably like 6 more rows maybe before I get to where I need to start the heel. I've just been chugging along on this. So I'm very close to getting to the heel already, but once I reach the heel, I'm going to do the foot, and the foot is this same texture motif, but without the colors. So then it's just single color knits and purls to make kind of this like honeycomb box kind of texture pattern grid type thing. That certainly was a sentence. Yeah, it's so much fun so far, and this has been my on-the-go sock knit. I love this bag, by the way. Like, can we just have a moment for the bag real quick, because it's holding. It was a tight fit at first, but now that I've consumed some of the yarn, it's more comfortable. But it was holding a full-size sock skein and 2 7-gram mini skeins in here like a champ. And I was able to work really comfortably with all 3 colors in here. So let's just give it up for the bag. Once again, this is just a little Sanrio Cinnamoroll bag that I got at like a Don Quixote in Hawaii like a year ago. But it's just the perfect sock bag. Like, I even have other bags that are certainly sock project sized, but I don't know that I can ever not use this bag for my sock projects. I love it so much. So like, yeah, and then like also in the bottom here, I have like a little travel scissors in here just to like do a little snip snip. And it's just such a good bag. Oh, I even have a tape measure in here. So this is turning into an episode of what's in my bag now, but I have this little tape measure that I got from Uncommon Threads during the yarn crawl as a free prize. And it just folds up really nice into this little thing like that. That's in here with the sock yarn. And I have some stitch markers in the bottom of here as well. Aw, shoot, I think I took my scissors out. But either way, just trust those scissors fit perfectly in here. I might have just put it in a different project bag because I needed it for something else, but it's just a good bag. It's just a really good bag. So that's my progress on my Signal and Signalist socks. Super excited to do more of these. Yeah, this color combination is just driving me absolutely insane. It's so pretty. You know what? One more close-up, because you can see how beautifully all those colors are working up together. And it's like, I know I've talked before on here about how I'm not a huge fan of variegated yarns, like the kind that end up micro striping and pooling a lot, but there's so much color going on in this skein that it doesn't pool. Each row is different. It's just so pretty. It's really pretty. I'm just so obsessed with it. I'm kind of in hustle mode now. because I need to go to my grandma's house for dinner very soon. But I only have one more whip to share with you and then one acquisition, so hopefully I can make this quick. And I did also mention that this was going to be in my future plans, very near future plans, but this is my Vilma top by Gregoria Fibers. Come on. Pretty. So once again, per usual, it's very scrunched up and hard to see what's going on here. But I'll put pictures on the screen of what this top is supposed to look like. But it's a button-up vest, which I think is going to be a very cute layering piece come fall. And this is also why I'm enjoying, this is the one that I was talking about where I'm like, I'm getting fall vibes from this, but it's cool enough to still be a late summer knit, which is what I intended for it in the first place too. So it's has this very simple lace motif, but it also has like these vertical lines that run up the entire portion of the vest that are also like this lace. But it's just so cute. Like, it's so coquette, cottagecore, if you will. I'm really obsessed with this vest. Like, I was so obsessed when I started seeing people who were like posting this vest as part of their knitting plans and stuff like that. This was back in spring, summer. I just wanted one so badly, and so I picked out this yellow color, but I'm holding it with this strand of like this darker mustard kind of color, which when I first bought it, I wasn't sure how it would turn out, and I was kind of having post shopping regret, what's it called? Buyer's remorse. That's that's what I was trying to say. I was having buyer's remorse for a little bit at first because I wasn't sure. I was like, you know, this might just be too stark of a contrast. It might not look good. Then I swatched for it, and I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it at all. And so, having done this swatch, I forged on with the confidence of a woman who has swatched for something finally. And this is how it's turning out. I think it's really pretty. It's certainly marled, because like I said, you know, this is a very stark color contrast to be holding together. But I kind of like it. It's very much reminding me of like wheat. You know, it kind of has like those darker spots in there, but it just looks like wheat. I don't know, but I'm liking it. Yeah, so this pattern is actually worked more or less middle up, because I would say mostly bottom up. It's just that you have a provisional cast on at the bottom here, and then when you're done knitting the rest of the vest, you go back to this cast on and you keep knitting down a little bit longer with a different lace motif. So it's kind of middle up, but this is fairly close to the bottom. But I'm already pretty close to splitting for sleeves. I think I only have, not sleeves, armholes. I only have maybe 5 or 6 rows to go until I'm splitting for armholes, which, you know, that looks very short. But like I said, you know, you're picking up this provisional cast on, you're knitting down for quite a while after that. So, so I think it'll be nice. But I really like this motif here. Like, it's just so cottagecore. It's just so cute. So here I can stretch it out. There we go. Here I can stretch it out a little bit more and kind of show you what this is like. And this is the back. This is the back part of the vest. So this is what the back part looks like, but it does have a similar. It has like 2 of these panels in the front part as part of the front panels. That made absolutely no sense. But yeah, you'll just have to pardon me running my mouth. This is my podcast. I can do what I want. But it's just so pretty. So the yarn that I'm using is certainly not the recommended yarn, because the recommended yarn, I feel like I talked about this when I first mentioned this pattern, but the recommended yarn was like 100% Peruvian wool, and then the description was like, this is such a nice little top for summer, and I'm like, it's not a nice top for our kind of summer. That's not gonna fly. So what this is this is Barocco Modern Cotton, which is a worsted weight Pima cotton. Oh gosh, what is the mix? You know, I have the ball band in here. And I'm almost done with this ball anyway, so I'm just gonna pop it out. So this is Baroka Modern Cotton. This is 60% Pima cotton and 40% modal, which is a wood pulp fiber. So that is what this lighter yellow is, and then this darker yellow is Alpaca 1 by Sayer, which is just a lace weight 100% alpaca. And that's what I'm working with here. So it is kind of making, I'm actually really enjoying the fabric that it's making because it has the lightness and the breathability of the cotton and the plant fibers, but it has just a little bit of fuzz from the alpaca, and it has just a little bit of that nice halo from the alpaca. It's just nice. It just feels nice. It's very interesting. I think because I think what it is like if I was knitting with either one of these fibers by itself, I would not enjoy this as much. Like if it was just the cotton that I was working with, I would not enjoy it as much. And if it was just animal fibers or just alpaca that I was working with, it would be way too hot and I wouldn't enjoy it as much either. So I'm really enjoying this combination. It strikes a really good balance that I'm kind of hanging in. Yeah. In the home stretch here, I just have one acquisition to share. So a couple episodes ago, I talked about Apothecary Fiber Company, whose yarn I adored. She was based out of San Jose. It hurts so much to say that. She was based out of San Jose. She was an independent yarn dyer, and I had been following her page like pretty much since I started my knitting Instagram. And I'd only bought yarn from her like once, and I was just like every single shop update, I was like, I don't need more yarn. I'll wait for the next shop update, I'll wait. And then she announced that her shop was closing and she was doing her final update. And so I was hit with so much regret that I had not shopped her updates sooner. But I mentioned this earlier because I did share one sock skein that I bought from her previously. And I think I even told this story where I asked my boyfriend, I said, hey babe, you know how I just bought all this yarn from the Bay Area Yarn Crawl? Well, here's the story about this lady. And so I asked him, pretty please, can you buy my birthday present early and get me a sweater quantity of this yarn? And he said, okay. Well, my birthday was finally 2 weekends ago, and so I received the sweater quantity of yarn that he bought for me. And here it is. It's so pretty. Oh my gosh, this bag is crunching so much. So here's all 3, but let me just open this up and pull out one skein for us to look at because the crunching is a lot, and I'm sorry about it. Pick this one. So this is finally the last Apothecary Fiber Company yarn that I have purchased. So it's going to be very special. I am content to wait to knit with it until I know exactly what I want to do with it, because it's such a special skein. But this is the colorway Peony on her nymph fingering vase, which is, that label got cut off, which is 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. Just a very typical 4-ply 100 gram sock skein, and with her signature speckle dye. She had a lot of colorways that had this kind of like a speckle dye, but it's on a light pink base, and it has speckles of hot pink, electric blue, this ochre color. Ah, God, I miss her shop so much. So this is the last of it. So as you can see, I got 3 skeins of this. I am hoping to, because I know I have yarn plans of what I'm bringing to Korea. This was also from the Bay Area Yarn Crawl, but that is 3 skeins of stock yarn essentially, plus 3 skeins of a lace alpaca. And that should be enough for the sweater that I'm planning for it. So I'm also hoping that this will be enough for a sweater as long as I get a mohair to pair with it. I mean, it better be, because I'm not gonna do anything else with this except for make an extremely special, amazing, and beautiful sweater out of it. So yeah, so that's the story on this. I finally received it. It's just so pretty. I mean, like, let's give it up for the yarn one more time, everybody. I'm really gonna miss this shop so much. Like, I was so obsessed with all of her colorways. But I'm happy with this peony one. I'm happy that this is the one that I got a sweater quantity of. And I'm really thinking that I don't want to do, I don't want to do anything that has like a crazy amount of cables or texture to it. Like maybe some texture, but what I'm really envisioning this as is like a stockinette sweater that can really showcase the yarn dye job, which, you know, is very unlike me. I'm not really one to go for a plain stockinette sweater, but I really do think that this deserves to be showcased in that way. So that's kind of where I'm leaning, but obviously in no rush to work with it whatsoever. So that is that. And I'm coming up on time, so thank you so much for spending time with me today talking about all this yarny goodness. If you like what I'm doing here, please take a moment, give this video a like. Please consider subscribing to my channel and leave a comment down below what you are working on as we transition into fall. Are you ready for fall yet? Are you still stuck in summer? Let me know all that down in the comments. And until next time, take care and I'll see you soon. Bye.